So you can have a look. So if I go to this slide mode, then you may not able to see the question paper. So hi Anna, good evening. So we were discussing on the question paper which I shared. It is December 2024. Generally there will be a question from the valuation problem, but last December 2024, if you see, there is multiple questions from the foreign trade policy, and one is related to the schemes, major schemes under foreign trade policy. The other one is related to SEZ and EOU, and there is one more which is we are discussing on the scheme is advance authorization scheme. So this we have both the points, the questions here, duty free importable items and the brief note on the eligibility for advance authorization. Both, yes, the one which we have seen yesterday, the same only here. So you need to mention the items which are considered under advance authorization scheme under duty free. These are the two items, and who are eligible to opt for the scheme. So we need to write this one. So who holds the AEO certificate, and he should be a manufacturer come actual user. Plus additionally he should hold valid 2-star or above status. Only then he will be eligible, but subject to the specified conditions. So what is that condition? The DGFT, they will check whether there is any risk is there, and the scheme not applicable for the specified export products as well as specified inputs. So there is some appendix which is maintained. So for certain products or inputs, though we apply for the license, but still we will not be permitted or will not be granted with the this advance authorization license. So fine, from yesterday we were into this foreign trade policy, this advance authorization. There are many new terms like AEO, actual user condition, pre-import condition. These are the major repetitive terms these are, because this not only will be there in the advance authorization, but whatever continuously we are going to go through the schemes, you can have a look on this particular schemes. Duty, now we are into duty exemption schemes. Under duty exemption schemes only we have two categories. One is advance authorization scheme, the other one is duty free import authorization scheme. So till we are yet to complete this advance authorization scheme, then once we have completed, we can study about this duty free import authorization scheme. Then we have duty remission schemes, then scheme for remission of this is RoDTEP, that is remission of duties and taxes on exported products. Then we have EPCG, then these are export oriented units, STP, BTP, EHTP, that is hardware technology park, software technology park, biotechnology park, these are there, and deemed exports. So these are the export promotion schemes very simple, mostly theoretical only, but still if we focus on major points like the validation period, so who is eligible to apply, and is there any threshold limit, and whether we can transfer the license. If we focus on major of these items, the same thing we can continue for the other schemes as well. So before we go and continue on this pre-export obligation, advance release order, invalidation letter. So yesterday we stopped till that. So before we go back to that, so easy way, because you should not feel like something tough. So I will share you the differences. So it will give you good idea. So you will be coming out from the it looks so tough or something. So you don't want to feel very tough. So I will share you the differences. So it will give you some idea about these schemes. So now we are into the first one. If you see, we are into this first one, which is duty exemption schemes. Under duty exemption schemes, we have two schemes. One is advance authorization and the other one is duty free import authorization scheme. So now, yesterday we have understood, maybe you might have learning new terms on the advance authorization scheme. So before we continue, you can have a look on the differences. So you will get some idea about the schemes. So now I will take you to the difference between the advance authorization scheme and the duty-free importation scheme. So first we will see the similarities. So you can have a look on the similarities. Items eligible for import. So in both either advance authorization or DFIA, duty-free import authorization. So the items are similar only, items eligible for export. And the below is the validity period. So what is the validity period? Validity period is 12 months from the date of issue. So your license is valid only for a period of 12 months from the date of issuance of license. So for both either advance authorization or duty-free import authorization, the both are same. So this is the similarity. Now we will see about the differences. So transferability. So advance authorization scheme, it is a transferable. So if you have taken the license, still if you want to once your obligation is completed, for what reason you have taken the license, it is completed, and if you want to transfer, you may still transfer the license. But in the case of duty-free import authorization, only after your obligation is fulfilled, then you are eligible to transfer the duty-free import license. And here value addition. So in advance authorization scheme, suppose on our behalf, if the domestic supplier wants to import, in that case also we can transfer our license, and once we have received the imported materials, we can continue as well. Then in the value addition. So what is value addition? Minimum 15% and here minimum 20%. So there is an illustration in our material elsewhere. We will see this, what is value addition. So if you want to take a license under advance authorization, suppose if I say that I am going to import 100 the duty the import the raw material for the which is under the duty amount comes to 100, I should show that 15% addition to the value. So I will show with example, so it will give you idea. So this is very important to understand the value addition. So I am sharing the study material. So you can have a look on the this particular example. So I have shown here the differences. The value addition is minimum 15% in case of advance authorization, and in case of duty free you should have the value addition of 20%. If I blindly tell you that the value addition is 15 and 20%, it will be very difficult. So you can have a look on this particular example. Jigsaw puzzle has imported inputs having CIF value 25 lakhs without payment of duty under advance authorization. So your cost, insurance and freight, the value is 25 lakhs. Without duty amount it is, without payment of duty. And the inputs that are supplied free of cost. So you are importing two things. One under CIF without paying duty, the other time free of cost materials have been imported. So what is the value? 5 lakhs. To meet the eventualities of quality issues arising during manufacture. So you are facing some issue at the time of manufacture. So you have asked the importer to supply free of cost. So what is that value? Which is 5 lakhs. So now we know it. What is our import value? 25 plus 5 lakhs, which is 30 lakhs. On 30 lakhs, the value, what we have seen, the minimum value addition should be 15% in case of advance authorization scheme. So 15% means which is 115%. So you have imported 30 lakhs, and against that what should be our export? Our export should be 34 lakh 50,000. So how 34 lakh 50,000? 30 lakhs multiply 115%. So 34 lakh 50,000 we need to show as our export supply. That is, our export to sales should be 34 lakh 50,000. So this is the value addition. So the minimum value addition I have mentioned is 15%, and that 15% differs it for the products. And you can see here the export products where value addition could be less than 15%. So not always 15%. There are some items which are less than 15% as well. For gems and jewelry sector, there is a separate percentage. But normally, for all general category of the materials, it is 15%. That's why here we are showing in the difference between the minimum should be 15% and the for duty-free import authorization it is 20%. The next difference is actual user condition. So what difference between the advance authorization and the duty free? So the material imported under advance authorization, it is subject to actual user condition. So what yesterday we have seen about the meaning of actual user condition. So what is actual user condition? Whenever you are importing any raw material, you should use for the purpose of manufacturing of the product for what you have imported. Suppose there we have seen an example of wooden furniture, like for manufacturing the wooden furniture we require wood, nails, glue, these are the items. So tomorrow if there is any excess after your export obligation is completed, you have your raw materials in excess at your end. Say for example, the glue you still have some 3000 kg. You are not allowed to sell the 3000 kg with the same like the raw material to any of the customer. So advance authorization, it is subject to actual user condition. That is the main point. So in case of DFIA, duty free import authorization, so no DFIA issued for an input subject to pre-import condition or SION prescribes actual user condition. So the duty, that is here it is not applicable. So whereas the actual user condition means it is subject to advance authorization scheme is subject to actual user condition, and here it is not applicable. Then you can use the same terms also, like no DFA issued where SION, that is standard input output norms, prescribes actual user condition. That much is also sufficient. Then issuance. Issuance, it can be issued even if SION for the product is not fixed. So SION means standard input output norms. So what is the input you require to manufacture the resultant product? So it can be issued even if SION for the product is not fixed. Meaning is what? Yesterday we have seen no SION or no valid ad hoc norms is even if it is not there, but still you can go and apply for advance authorization on the basis of self declaration or self ratification scheme. So you should remember, even though there is no SION, still we are eligible to apply. On what basis? That is the scheme called self ratification scheme. So here the issuance SION is not required, but if you see duty free import authorization, it can be issued only if SION is fixed. So this is the difference, very important here. DFIA cannot be issued where SION prescribes actual user condition as the material is transferable after the fulfillment of export obligation. So once we look into the entire in detail, we can see the second point, but timely, the easiest one, please focus on that. So it can be issued even if scion is not fixed, but here it can be issued only if scion is fixed. That much is fine. Then payment exemption. So what payment is exemption in case of advance authorization? So here it is exempted from the payment of, you can see many duties like basic customs duty, additional customs duty, education cess, anti-dumping duty, countervailing, safeguard wherever applicable. And here in duty-free import, it is exempted only from the payment of basic customs duty. So here it is only exempted from the payment of basic customs duty, but here you will get exemption for multiple duties. Then one more on the advance authorization, specified deemed exports are not exempted from the payment of this anti-dumping countervailing duty. Import under advance authorization for physical as well as deemed exports exempted from the whole of integrated tax and compensation cess. This is additional point. You can, if you can able to remember, you can, but still this is very much sufficient. So here which payment is exempted? That here it is only BCD and here it is multiple different types of duties. So this is just for, it will give you an idea. So what are the schemes? So what are the points we need to focus? So everywhere if you see the deemed exports, SEZ, EOU, we are reading it continuously. So even in our question paper, I am sharing it. So it is now I am just giving some relax, like if again we go back to the pre-export order, you need to focus on much more concentration is required. So just now you can have a look what is the difference, what is the percentage value addition is required. So that much we are seeing currently. So now there is one more question also related to special economic zone and export oriented unit. So this also very simple. Post this class, I have taken it from our study material only, but if you feel this slide is okay, then I will share post this session. So we will go back. We are seeing now about the difference between SEZ and the EOU. So when this question is asked, don't directly start with the difference. Give some 1 minute. I'll just change this slide. So before you start directly with the differences, what you are seeing now, before that we can add the meaning of SEZ or EOU, and then in the exams you can start with the differences. So you can see here it is very simple one. So differences I just mentioned here, the nature. So first one is supply. Supply means the whatever we are supplying to SEZ. So when we see about the schemes, multiple times we are coming across the term SEZ, deemed export, EOU, like this. So before we go back, just for an introduction, you can have a look on these differences. So SEZ and EOU. So supply means the supply to SEZ is called as export. So we are in which zone? Suppose like SEZ means it's a special economic zone, and EOU export oriented units. There is a specific terms are there. So if we are in the normal area, that means we call it as DTA, which is domestic tariff area, where normal tax rates are applicable. So that area zone we call it as a domestic tariff area. So if a person supplying from domestic tariff area to SEZ, then it is called a export. Not always you need to directly export, that is across the country or boundary. So not always that only if you are selling outside India only export, even within India, but still if you are supplying to SEZ, then we call it as an export. Supply to SEZ is called export, and supply to EOU, the export oriented units, which is called as deemed export. So then this 6 points just for our to remember easily, that nature I have mentioned. Second one is related to GST. So supply from the domestic tariff area to SEZ will attract IGST at 0 rate. So even in GST, if you remember, we sometimes in many places we might have studied like 0 rated supply. 0 rated supply means what? GST is applicable, so the GST percentage is 0%. Why? Because the supply is to SEZ zones, that is special economic zones. So it will attract IGST at 0%. Then if it is EOU, then supply from DTA to EOU will attract GST at applicable rates. It's a normal if you are invoicing to other DTA area, same normal only, even if you are invoicing to export oriented units. Then refund. Refund is the refund of tax. There is no question of refund in case of SEZ, because there is no tax itself, so there is no question of refund. So the refund of tax does not arise since no tax suffered by SEZ unit. No tax suffered by SEZ unit. Then EOU, refund is allowed. So you can go and claim for the GST refund, but it is for both, either supplier or receiver. So there should be a mutual understanding. So the refund allowed to supplier or receiver, either one can claim the refund. Then customs clearance. So customs clearance, export and import customs clearance is achieved within the zone itself. So there is no outside, here within the boundary only. So we export and import clearance is achieved within the zone itself. And here EOU, for the imported consignments, there is a scheme which is fast track clearance scheme. So in SEZ there is no such scheme. So within the zone we can easily clear either if it is an export or if you are going to import. Import means if you are going to purchase anything from the SEZ. Same way for EOU, not for export but for the clearance of imported consignments, there is a scheme. That scheme name is fast track clearance scheme. So it will happen in a better way with all the process and everything. Here then setup. It can be set up only at designated sites. So SEZ means government have already declared that these are the SEZ zones. So the industries or the factory has to set up only at the designated sites. But EOU we can start anywhere in India, and we can mention this is purely export oriented units only. So it can be set up anywhere, but SEZ has to set up only at the designated sites. Then minimum investment. So what is minimum investment? Here in SEZ it is not required, but for EOU, very important, the numbers 1 crore, minimum 1 crore in plant and machinery considered for establishment as EOUs, but sometimes with the help of board of approvals, the establishment with the lower investment, even the criteria also, it will get approved. So it is not always necessary that you should have need to invest 1 crore. Even without lesser investment also, EOU can be established. So this is the differences between SEZ and export oriented units. So only repetitively we will be studying about this only. So what is the export oriented units, what should be the eligibility criteria, so whether where should the EOU has to be established, whether in the designated sites or anywhere. So what about the refund? So this only we will be studying in detail in the chapters. This is just for the background of what we will be studying in the foreign promotion schemes, export promotion schemes. So now we will go to the in detail, because previously in the advance authorization scheme also I have mentioned there should be a minimum 15%. Minimum 15% means even in our material you might have seen the 15% differs product wise. Even if it is a tea, then 20%, 25%. But generally for most of the products it is 15%. So we'll go back to our yesterday's this thing and we can continue. Because like eligibility, they may question, the question may come for the validity period, and in MCQ types or even in the 7 marks also they may ask what is invalidation letter and advance release order. So these types of, if you see, it's very easy and simple. That's why don't miss any of the points. So yesterday when we were continuing, we were stopping here and then we'll close for the day. So we'll continue from here. The pre-import condition. So pre-import condition means they should be physically incorporated in the export product. That means before you do your export, these raw inputs means raw materials, you should have imported, and the same should have been physically incorporated in the export product. That is called pre-import condition. In case of local procurement, so actually pre-import condition means it's a simple point only, like it should be physically, the imported inputs should be physically incorporated in the export product. Meaning is what? Before you have exported the product, you should have imported those products, and that needs to be manufactured or assembled in your export product. Then in case of, here it comes the two new terms. In case of local procurement, under invalidation or ARO, which is advance release order, the inputs shall be procured prior to manufacture of export item and shall be physically incorporated in the export product. So if you see, as a layman, if you see, the first point tells the imported inputs physically incorporated, and the second point is about local procurement. So where are we going to import? Are we going to purchase locally? So you may get some contradictory here. So but what exactly the foreign trade policy says in case of local procurement? Now we will go to this invalidation letter. So what is the meaning of invalidation letter? So who issues the invalidation letter? The regional authority issue invalidation letter when domestic supplier intends to obtain duty-free material for inputs through advance authorization for supplying resultant product to another advance authorization. So for example, I am the owner of this advance authorization license. So I have whatever materials I have mentioned, I have imported some few materials and few yet to be done. But instead of I go and import the raw materials, I approach the domestic supplier. The domestic supplier in turn he will be in the middle, what I will do, I will be applied for the invalidation letter for the domestic supplier. So with the support of that invalidation letter, he import the raw material duty free and he supplies me the inputs, that is raw materials, to me, and I use that product for the manufacturing of the resultant product. So invalidation letter means, I repeat once again, invalidation letter means the regional authority, they issue the invalidation letter. To whom they issue the invalidation letter? To the domestic supplier. So for what purpose to the domestic supplier? So to obtain duty free material. So the domestic supplier For what reason they import the duty free material? To supply those inputs to the through advance authorization for supplying the resultant product to another advance authorization. Say for example, I am going to manufacture the wooden furniture, and I have applied for the advance authorization and I received the advance authorization license. So now I am not going to directly import. I approach the domestic supplier. So on my behalf, he import the raw material and he supply to me. So how the domestic supplier directly go and apply for the go and import the raw material? He need some document. So what is that document? It is called invalidation letter. So for the domestic supplier to import the inputs or the raw materials, so I the owner of the advance authorization license, apply for the invalidation letter and issue that letter to the domestic supplier. So generally, from where I will get the invalidation letter? From the regional authority. So the regional authority issue the invalidation letter, domestic supplier in turns obtain the duty free material through advance authorization for supplying the resultant product to another advance authorization. So this is one case. So there is, yes, again different other cases also there, which is advance release order. If you see both the terms, like both the meaning of the both advance release order or invalidation letter looks similar, except a small difference. So again here also the regional authority issue advance release order if the domestic supplier intends to seek refund of duties exempted through deemed export mechanism. So previously what we have seen in the invalidation letter, he will be importing the material. So he import from other country. But here he gets through deemed export mechanism. This domestic supplier may purchase from the EOU units and then they supply to the advance authorization license holder for the manufacturing of the resultant product. So this is the major difference. So here the holder of the invalidation letter, the domestic supplier purchase from that is he does the direct import, and here it is he purchased through deemed export mechanism. So this is the thing you need to remember in the two different scenarios. See, I will read this example. An exporter, Mr. Patel, advance authorization to import 100 kg of specialized fabric for manufacturing a specific export garment. Instead of importing the fabric directly, so I don't go and directly import the fabric. He decides to source it from a domestic manufacturer, which is an eligible unit like an EOU. So Mr. Patel apply for advance release order with the relevant regional authority, specifying he wants to purchase the fabric from the domestic supplier. So I instead of searching any supplier outside India, even if I come to know there is a domestic supplier who is in EOU, so I apply for the advance release order. So with the relevant regional authority specifying he wants to purchase the fabric from the domestic supplier. So once advance release order is issued, the domestic manufacturer supply the fabric to Mr. Patel duty free. It is considered as a deemed export for the supplier. So this is for advance release order. So we will see for invalidation letter. I am not sure whether I have taken example. So invalidation letter, this is the example. Company A, so he is the holder of advance authorization. They need raw material for producing a final product for export. Instead of importing these materials directly, they identify company B who can provide the materials. Company A provide the company B invalidation letter allowing company B to import the required raw materials duty free and supplying them to company A. So company A export the finished product and fulfills their export obligation. So this is the difference between invalidation letter and advance release order. So again the same terms may repeat in other schemes. So if you are very clear and strong here, we can easily move on to the other schemes. So next one is validity period for import. So the validity period of an advance authorization in two situations. So this is there in our study material, easy one. So we will have a look. Validity period for import. Import of goods under advance authorization must be made within 12 months. Okay, today May 25, 3rd May 25, I have applied for advance authorization license. Then I kept quiet and I am busy in other projects and other things and I have not started anything. So that means my license may get expire within a period of 12 months. So it has to be used within the period of 12 months. The import of goods under advance authorization must be made within 12 months from the date of issue of authorization. Second, the revalidation for another period of 12 months can be allowed once only. So suppose if you want to renew or extend the revalidation, it is allowed once and it will be for another period of 12 months. Application can be made online, so we can do it online as well. The validation, this we are seeing it for the import of goods. So there is one other different one, which is validity of export authorization for supplies under deemed exports shall be coterminous with contracted duration of project execution or 12 months from the date of issue of authorization, whichever is later. So this validity period is for what? For supplies under deemed export. So if we are doing any supply to the deemed export, So coterminous means within that limit or the area we can say. So it should be the duration of your project execution or 12 months from the date of authorization, issue of authorization, whichever is later. So the generally the period, the validity period, it should be 12 months, and in case of deemed export, it should be the project execution or the 12 months, whichever is the later date. So here it is for the coterminous related. We'll see this example. Suppose a company import material for a project in India under deemed export. The company's export obligation to fulfill the authorization might be coterminous with the contract's duration. So it could last the entire project length or 18 months, whichever is longer. If the project is scheduled for 2 years, the export obligation will last for 2 years and not 18 months. This is only in case of deemed export, the projects related only. So we'll see. Okay. So one thing we should be clear. What is the validity period difference? And here we are now in the topic export obligation period. So what is meant by export obligation? Before we see the period, we should know the meaning of export obligation. The obligation to export a product covered by authorization or permission in terms of quantity, value prescribed or specified by the regional or the competent authority. So export obligation means what? For what purpose we have taken the license. So the license is for we are importing the material duty free, and when your the obligation will get complete, you imported the raw material, and within a period of 90 days you should use the raw material and have to do the export. That we call it as export obligation. Say for example, today is 3rd May 2025. So I imported a raw material. So within next 90 days, I should use that raw material in the manufacturing of my finished product, and I should complete my export activity. That we call it as an export obligation. The export obligation to export product or products covered by authorization or permission in terms of quantity, value or both, prescribed or specified by regional or competent authority. The export obligation period of advance authorization issued for such items. So this 90 days means it is for some specified items only. Generally, if you see normal cases, it is 18 months, but as in our material, it is clearly given for such items, it should be 90 days from the date of clearance of import consignment, and no extension shall be allowed. Such import subject to actual user condition and no transfer of imported raw material for any purpose including job work shall be permitted. So again, if you see here, you are able seeing the term actual user condition. Such import shall be subject to actual user condition. Meaning is what? You have imported the wood, glue and nails, and you should use that product only for the manufacturing of your export, to fulfill your export obligation only. So even no transfer of imported raw material, meaning is, suppose if you have still some excess of glue, nails or wood, you are not allowed to transfer, even if you are not supposed to move, give it to the job worker for any reason. No transfer of imported raw material for any purpose, including job work, shall be permitted. So it is not allowed here. So the export obligation period and its extension. Extension says what? There is no extension at all. So only obligation period is 90 days from the date of clearance of import consignment. So then we will see, this is just for example I have taken. So the actual user condition, for that purpose only I have kept this example. So the manufacturer importing raw material under advance authorization to produce the goods for export, that is subject to actual user condition. So how I got this license of advance authorization? So I have given the my export sales and what should be my import and quantity, all those details. So the produce the goods for export is subject to actual user condition, meaning is the imported raw material cannot be sold to another party even after the export obligation is completed. So it doesn't mean that okay, whatever the purpose I exported, I have already export the 500 numbers I mentioned at the time of license, obtained the license. Now all those 500 units manufacturing is completed. Now whatever the raw material lying at my end, I can go and sell it. So it clearly says the raw material cannot be sold to another party even after the export obligation is completed. So that is very important here. Then advance authorization for annual requirement and eligibility conditions. So for annual requirement and what are the eligibility conditions we have? The advance authorization for annual requirement issued shall only be issued for items notified in standard input-output norms, and it shall not be available in case of ad hoc norms under self-declaration where Sion does not exist. That is where even where the standard input-output norms does not exist, the advance authorization for annual for 1 year, if we are not eligible to, it will not be issued. The advance authorization for annual requirement issued for items specified in Sion. Where if the items are there in the standard input-output norms, and you should not apply through your self-ratification, self-declaration, that is not allowed. So when you will get your authorization for annual requirement, so if the items are notified in the Sion, standard input-output norms, the advance authorization for annual requirement not available in respect of Sion, where input-output, where any item of input appears in appendix 4J. So this you need to remember, the input appears in 4J appendix, then in that case also you will not be you are not eligible to obtain the advance authorization license. Then exporters having past export performance shall be entitled for advance authorization. So in at least preceding 2 financial years. So they generally check our past performance, at least preceding 2 financial years, then we are entitled for advance authorization. So what is, how they check our past performance? The entitlement of advance authorization for annual requirement. So how they derive? So 300% of FOB value of physical exports or FOR value of deemed exports in the preceding financial year, whichever is higher. So they check our advance before giving the authorization. They check what is the 300% of FOB. FOB means free on board. This is related to direct exports where you sell outside India. Below is the deemed export. From the term you should be able to identify. Free on board is from one destination to the other destination, that is direct export. This is deemed export. So deemed export means if I sell to the any EOH unit, that we call it as a deemed export. So they calculate whichever is higher for before issuing the annual authorization for annual requirement. Then value addition. So these are just formulas only we need to remember here. Value addition for the purposes FOB value of export realized or FOR value of supply received. The CIF value of inputs covered by authorization plus value of any other input used, benefit of duty drawback is claimed or intended to be claimed. So the one which we have seen about the value addition, the same only in formula. So I'll show the example. So the example here. So this formula is to calculate whether we achieved the percentage, whether we achieved 15%. So that's why A minus B. What is our export value? What is our CIF value? That is when you imported the inputs, divided by CIF value into 100, which gives you the percentage of value addition. So whether we satisfied the minimum criteria of 15% or if it is tea or other spices 50% and 25%, then only they for the next approval you will get the advance authorization. So value addition means it is just formula we needed to mention. The FOB value of export realized minus CIF value of inputs covered divided by CIF value into 100, which will give you the value addition. So on what basis the license will be granted to us? The minimum, if we satisfy the minimum value addition. So the minimum value addition required to be achieved under advance authorization is 15%. In case of specified products like petroleum products, the value addition may be less than 15%. So the minimum value addition required to be achieved 15%. Value addition could be less than 15%. That is given in appendix 4D, that is related to petroleum products. And for the other value addition for gems and jewelry sector, we need to refer this handbook. And for tea and spices, you need to see the minimum value addition, which is 15% and 25%. And I want to mention here, sometimes there may be a question even in MCQ type or the paragraph writing also, describe about the minimum value addition. Then in that case, you need to remember it is achieved under advance or is 15%. It could be less than 15% for petroleum products. Gold and gems, we need to refer the paragraph 4.6. Then tea and spices, 50% should be for tea and spices is 25%. So here we have seen this example. The same we need to apply for any other things also, like how much we are, what is the value we are importing. This is cost insurance freight. We are importing 25 lakhs and one more import happened which is free of cost. Sometimes we may not consider this free of cost, but generally whatever import we are doing against our export obligation, we need to consider. So the CIF value 25 lakhs and one more import we have done which is 5 lakhs. So total 30 lakhs, and on 30 lakhs our value addition we know it 15%. So 115%. So against this, that is using this raw material, we should show to the department that we have satisfied our export obligation, that we have made our export sales to the extent of 34,50,000. So this is for the value addition. So we need to remember the minimum value addition as well. Then import of mandatory spares. The spares that are required to be supplied with the export product can be imported under duty free, that is imported duty free under advance authorization, value 10% of CIF value of authorization if it is related to spares. So along with this minimum value addition, you need to remember the value for the import of mandatory spares. Then what are the duties exempted? If you remember, in our difference between advance authorization and the duty free import authorization scheme, we have seen the last point. What are the duties exempted from payment? So these are the different types of duties. BCD, additional customs, education cess, anti-dumping, countervailing, safeguard and specific safeguard wherever applicable. So again the same point repeated here. For the deemed exports, these are not exempted from the payment of anti-dumping duty, countervailing if any. So This is for the direct import. So if there is a from the deemed, if you are doing any deemed export, in that case these duties are not exempted. Then import under advance authorization for physical as well as deemed, in both cases we are exempt from the integrated tax and the compensation cess. Then admissibility of drawback. Then we have actual user condition. So till here it will be till advance authorization scheme, and then very simple everything will be. So admissibility of drawback, duty drawback as per the rate determined and fixed by the customs authority, available for duty paid imported or indigenous inputs used in the export product. For this purpose, the applicant has to clearly indicate clearly the details of duty paid in the application of advance authorization. So when we apply for the advance authorization, we should be able to clearly mention the raw materials which we are going to import and what are the duty rate applicable. So which is available for duty paid imported or indigenous inputs used in the export product. So clearly when we are submitting our application through online or we should, that time itself we should be able to know about everything, what is the duty applicable. Then now actual user condition. So actual user condition, I have this example. We will see this one and then we go back to our system study material. A company X import raw material for manufacturing electronic components. They then use these components to produce finished electronic devices which they sell to the retailers and end customers. Company X is the actual user because they are utilizing the imported raw materials in their own manufacturing process. So only condition is the raw material, we are not allowed to sell the raw material in the stage of raw material itself, but you can manufacture, use that raw material and manufacture the product and then you sell the finished product. In that case you are allowed. If company X import the raw materials and immediately sell to another company for a profit without processing, so you can see the difference between these two. So in first case you are utilizing the imported raw material in the own manufacturing process. Below one, what you are doing without processing them, this would not meet the actual user condition, the criteria. So this one very you need to clear, because in many places you need to be continuously studying about actual user condition, SION, the standard input output norms. So here we should be able to understand. So the actual user condition, the same shall not be transferable even after the completion of export obligation. So means if you have the raw material excess but you are not allowed to transfer, same shall not be transferable even after completion of export obligation. The authorization holder will have option to dispose of the product out of duty free input once the obligation is completed. if ITC facility on input has been availed for the exported goods, even after completion of export obligation, the goods imported against advance authorization utilized only in the manufacture of dutiable goods, whether within the same factory or outside by a supporting manufacturer. The waste or any scrap which are arising can be disposed of on payment of applicable duty before the fulfillment of export obligation. So these are the main one. So in the actual user condition, if they ask, you can directly give some example also, or you can mention these points. So that is cannot be transferable. If you are availing the ITC benefit, so you have to still manufacture the dutiable goods within the same factory or outside by the help of some supporting manufacturer. So if there is any waste or scrap happen, then for that you need to, before the export obligation, you need to submit the details or you have to pay for the duty. So free of cost supply by foreign buyer. So in this example we have seen free of cost, right? So the free of cost also in detail in the advance authorization we are seeing. Advance authorization is also available where some or all inputs supplied free of cost to exporter by foreign buyer. In such cases, the notional value of free of cost is added in the CIF value of import and FOB value of export for the purpose of computation of value addition. Okay, so for example, we are importing some other material free of cost. That raw material also we use it for in our finished product. So the free of cost means you don't know the value of that raw material. In that scenario, they use a value called notional value. Even in accounts also you might have seen the notional amount. So notional amount means what? Which is not the real value but an approximate. So the same raw material, if imported by other different supplier, so approximately they will derive the cost or verify those, consider that different importer who imports the same product. So that cost they consider as a notional value. And here in the similar example, that time here they have given the value 5 lakhs. But in the real scenario, sometimes if happens, you don't know the cost of FOC basis which you imported. So they put some notional value and then they derive your export obligation. So it doesn't mean if the value is not there, they will not consider. They consider by adding a notional value. So that is for the free of cost. So if you are importing a car with a specific model number from Japan, the seller's invoice shows the car valued at $20,000. Your customs office suspects the car may be valued at higher amount. So I have imported the car and I am showing them the invoice, it is $20,000, but still the department will not agree based on the brand and the company the quality and these things. So if they suspects car may be valued at a higher amount. So why I am showing lesser value? So that I can pay less duty. So what the next step do they do? At a higher amount based on the features and comparable models sold in the local market. They might determine a notional value based on their market research and assess the duties if the transaction price is lower. So seeing the brand and the quality of the product, they immediately tells that the product, the price will be should be more than this, the price should be less. So then they derive the notional value. So this one is related to advance authorization scheme. So now I am moving on to the study material, which is duty free import authorization scheme. So from this is the very basic one, advance authorization scheme. Now when we move on to the duty free import authorization and all, then we will not take much time. We will quickly have a look. And before moving into this, we have this quality control orders. So once we complete the duty free importation, then we'll see about the quality control orders. So duty free import authorization. So from where it is coming? So you have to remember this chart. So duty exemption scheme, it is of two types. One is advance authorization and the other one is duty free import authorization. So duty free import authorization, again it is similar kind of advance authorization scheme only. So it is issued to allow duty free import of inputs, import of oil, catalyst, which are used in the process of production of export product. The provisions which are applicable to advance authorization, it is broadly applicable to DFIA, which is duty free import authorization, and it is issued only for the products for which SION have been notified. So very careful here. There at least we have option of self-declaration or self-ratification scheme, but here only on the basis of SION, standard input output norms. If I say SION standard input output norms, then please remember it is nothing but BOM, which is bill of material. So bill of material is what? If you are going to manufacture a pencil, to manufacture the pencil, what are the ingredients required? So if you need wood, so 1 kg, half kg wood is required. So to manufacture one pencil. So likewise, what are the ingredients is nothing, it is standard input output norms. Duties exempted. So there the difference between also we seen, and here also we have seen what are the duties which are exempted. So duties exempted, this thing you should remember, this is for advance authorization scheme, but for DFIA only BCD is exempted. The drawback as per the rate determined and fixed by the this is the general one. We know it, the drawback rate is determined and fixed by the customs authority, whether import or indigenous, used in the export market. Then eligibility. So duties exempted means you remember BCD, and the drawback rate who determines? It is fixed by the customs authority. Then eligibility. So who are all eligible to apply for duty free import authorization? So the duty free import authorization issued on post-export basis for the products for which standard input output norms notified. the merchant exporter required to mention name and address of the supporting manufacturer of the export product. So in the advance authorization scheme also we have seen eligibility is manufacturer exporter and merchant exporter. Merchant exporter who is tied with the manufacturer exporter. Same here, the merchant exporter required to mention the name and address of the supporting with whom he tied up with. So via shipping bill or bill of export, and the application filed with the regional authority before effecting export. So before the export, if you start export, has to be filed with the regional authority. No duty free import authorization issued for an input which is subject to pre-import condition. So this difference we have seen. So where there is no scion, then you are not eligible to apply for duty free import authorization scheme. So no scion, then no DFIA. You can write in a simple way. No duty free import authorization where there is no scion is there. That is standard input output norms are if it is not there, then you will not be eligible to get the license. The minimum value addition. So there we have seen 15% and here it is 20% you need to achieve. The validity and transferability of duty free import authorization. So what is the validity? There we have seen 12 months. So similar here. So the export shall be completed within 12 months from the date of online filing of application and generation of file number. The regional authority issue transferable DFIA with a validity of 12 months from the date of issue. So no further revalidation, and the separate DFIA shall be issued for each standard input output norms. The common provisions which is applicable for both advance authorization as well as for DFIA. So this question also may come, that is what are only few things we have seen. What is the similarities? So same way, what are the common provisions which are applicable? So what are the provisions which are applicable? Accounting of input. So in the relevant shipping bill, the scion permits use of generic input, alternative input. So in the shipping bill, and these inputs so endorsed within the quantity specified and match the descriptions in the bill of entry. So whenever we get the bill of entry, whatever the scion norms are there, we should be in both case, whether it is advance authorization or if it is DFIA, they reconcile it. So within the quantity specified, and they match the description in the relevant bill of entry. For the same import raw materials only, we have applied for the advance authorization license and we have received that license. They match even the quantity and the description. And the importability or exportability of items that are prohibited or restricted, that is in the state trading enterprises. That is, no export or import allowed if it is prohibited for export or imports. So this is a general one. So yeah, if those items are prohibited items, then you are not eligible. Then authorization provided, separately notified, and the items reserved cannot be imported against advance authorization. The items reserved for export, you need to see two things: if it is reserved for import, if it is reserved for export, then those are prohibited. There is if you need to obtain no objection certificate from the state trading enterprises if you still want to continue with the export. Then import of restricted items. So if they say these are the restricted or prohibited items, you are not eligible to do the export or import, then you, for those items, if you specify for in the application to obtain the license, then you will not get it. Then domestic, so again this is export of restricted items. Domestic sourcing of inputs. The holder of advance authorization or duty-free import authorization, they can procure the inputs from the indigenous supplier instead of direct import. Such procurement, again, the advance release order or invalidation letter, it is applicable in both scenarios. So instead of you go for direct import, so it doesn't, it is not necessary. I only have applied for advance authorization license, so I only should do the direct import. I can reach out to the domestic supplier or the deemed exporter, that is some other EOU units, and purchase the inputs, that is raw materials, I can purchase from them. Currency for realization of export proceeds. So till in the previously we have not seen about the currency, which is also one important area. Like export proceeds shall be realized in free convertible currency or in Indian rupees wherever permitted. So when you are doing the export, the money which you are receiving, it can be either in the foreign currency or in Indian rupee. Export to SEZ units, that is to the special economic zones, shall be taken into account for discharge of export obligation provided. So wherever this exceptional cases are there, please pay attention. So you are not doing export outside India, we are doing export to the SEZ units. So that time when you are here 300% or the FOR value of deemed export, this particular sentence is there, right? So when that value they will be considered provided the payment realized from foreign currency account of the SEZ unit. If they have the foreign currency account and released the payment to us from the foreign currency account, then only it will be considered in our FOR value, that is annual requirement for that license. Only if they release the payment from the foreign currency account. Export to SEZ developers or co-developers can also be taken into account for discharge even if the payment is realized in the Indian rupees. So even in the Indian rupees, if there is an export to the SEZ developers or the co-developers, even in Indian rupee it is considered, and authorization holder needs to file bill of export for export to SEZ unit. So we think that SEZ unit means within our boundary only, within India only. So no need of bill of export, but this foreign trade policy says the authorization, if you received the license, you still have to go and file the bill of export for if you are doing any export to SEZ unit. And re-import of exported goods, re-import of exported goods under duty exemption or remission. So the goods exported under advance authorization or duty free import authorization may be re-imported in same subject to the specified condition. Suppose if you are re-importing, then with the specified conditions we can do so. So these are the common provisions. So it is not required everything you need to remember. Please remember the major ones like the export items already restricted. You are not eligible to avail get the license. So the items which are already reserved for imports cannot be imported against advance authorization. And the items can be procured from the state trading enterprises against AR, advance release order, or invalidation letter. So wherever the points which is easy for you to remember, like advance reserved for imports, advance reserved for export. So what is the difference? So selectively remember those points and you can easily able to write the rest as well. So the domestic sourcing of inputs. So how you go for domestic sourcing? This we are saying it is common for both advance authorization plus DFIA, duty free import authorization. Meaning is what? You can go and apply for advance release order and invalidation letter. These two benefits are there in both the scenarios. So the next one is related to duty remission schemes. So again we will be seeing the similar kind like validity period. So when you will get the license, the similar thing only, like now in the duty remission scheme we have duty drawback scheme. Where is it? So now into the duty remission scheme. So we will see few points only, because if we continuously study this theoretical, you will get bored. Then we will stop somewhere and then we will see some of the few previous year question papers and GST related like returns and returns are there in GST, and the dispute mechanisms are there. So the some interpretation from justification from our end, they may question, like I will show you a few questions. So these things we will solve parallelly, and then we will see the other schemes in the customs, because in customs whatever practical problems are there, major one are covered. Only now left over is this foreign trade policy, the problem area in I think some 4 to 5 illustrations maximum will be there, that we will do it, and parallelly we will see the previous year question paper, and we will try to solve the problems, and then we will see few theories in the next session. So like I wanted to share, yes, these types of problems. Like this is the same December 24 question paper. The Sachin, a cost and management accountant, a partner in the GST registered firm, orders gaming software for his son, Mr. Rajiv, from a company located in USA. He makes the payment for the same from his personal bank account, whether the transaction liable to GST. So these types of justifications or from our point of view, how we are going to present it. So these types of problems we will see, and we'll see about the few schemes in half an hour. And then, because now you get some idea about the standard input output norms, actual user, because these terms only will get repeated in the other schemes. So that's why I took little bit time here in this advanced authorization scheme. So next class we will go faster, and then we will cover these problems parallelly. So if any doubt, please let me know. And tomorrow 9 o'clock is for intermediate. If you are available, please join. It is just for you, it will be like a refreshable one. So you can recollect the place of supply and the valuation part in the customs. So you will get some refresh. So if any doubt, please reach me. Thank you. I will close for today's, and to next class will continue.
Thank you, ma'am.